Bum,
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 ba-da-da,
bum,
bum, bum.
bum.
Ring. That's sort of a day off bendy, I guess, if
Yeah.
you will. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the Blue Review. I am Marcus Grant. He is Greg Bergman. It's presented, of course, as always, by LAX. So what did you do with your non-Dodger game day yesterday?
I went to dinner with Chris Morales. We went to the
Oh,
smokehouse in Burbank. Yeah. So and we had some stuff to talk about, go through some stuff around here. And it was a really nice dinner. Didn't watch basketball. What else?
yeah, I watched a little bit of basketball as a fan of a certain basketball team from the Bay Area, but I turned that off fairly quickly because things went bad in the third quarter. And then I was like, okay, I can go do other things.
I mean, let's be honest. And I actually kind of was kind of rooting for the Warriors, but with no Steph, that it's just not possible.
It was going to be tough for them to win that series with Steph. Without Steph, it feels nearly impossible. So I would expect that for me, basketball season probably comes to an end on Wednesday.
Hey, basketball season for me ended last week or the week before. I don't even know how long ago it's at this point. So
yeah. So, that means we can turn our attention fully to baseball season. I know the NFL schedule is being leaked out. I know the Rams have a game over in London, but that's for another time in another place. But you know what? Chances are when the Rams leave for London, they may make a stop at LAX. And so that's a perfect segue to shout out the folks. Thank you.
You get a big clap for that.
At Los Angeles International Airport. They are. Even Parker gives me a little fist pump there. I appreciate that. They are transforming the travel experience, saving guests time, and just making things more pleasant when you make your travel plans. The People Mover train, hopefully helping with that early next year. You go to flylax.com/transforminglax. All right. The Dodgers back home for a set against the Athletics, the West Sacramento A's, and then they will follow that up with a weekend series against the Angels, the Freeway Series, which, side note, I know we'll get there in a few days, but it's nice that they're playing a 3-game series against the Angels. I feel like so many of those are like 2-game series, right?
That's exactly. I was thinking about that exact same thing. It's actually both this year, and it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This one coming up, and then when it's in August and they play down in Anaheim, it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, another 3-game series. I think what happened is they gave the 2-game series to the Cubs this year. Yeah. And that's why they stopped it. I don't know. It's very strange. I don't know why they do this whole 2-game series nonsense. Just get rid of one 4-game series and make it something else, a 3-game series. It doesn't make any sense to me.
It makes no sense at all. But first things first, the A's are coming to town. Look, Greg, not much expected of these. They're actually above 500. So that I think that's a positive, certainly for them. They have been playing fairly well until recently. They've lost, I believe, 4 of their last 5, including getting thumped by the Yankees in 2 out of 3 over the weekend. But and I say this as somebody who grew up as an A's fan in the Bay Area. I look at this roster and I don't really know many of these guys. I don't know if you have any more.
Is this the Marlins situation? We're getting the same kind of deal. I haven't looked into the A's too much. I know they spent money because they had to.
Yeah. I mean, they did spend money on Luis Severino. The names that are vaguely familiar, and I know Shea Langoliers, I know Gio Urshela.
Shea Langoliers, I don't know.
Langoliers, decent power, a catcher with some decent power. But I'm looking, and as we talked about yesterday with Clint Pasillas, the other Max Muncy not currently on the active roster.
That's too bad. We don't get to hear all those people saying, "Oh, Max Muncy just got a ball from Max Muncy." I mean, I don't know who Hogan Harris or Gunnar Hoglund is. Mitch Spence or Jeffrey Springs. Do you know any of these names?
No, none of these names are familiar to me.
I mean, I know Luis Urias. Wasn't he with the Marlins for a little while? Nick Kurtz, I don't know. Max Schumann. I've heard of Tyler Soderstrom.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. Seth Brown.
I know JJ Bleday. That's vaguely familiar.
Miguel Andujar was pretty good for a little bit. Okay. Brent Rooker. Right. I know Brent Rooker.
Brent Rooker. Yes, I am familiar with Brent Rooker.
Yeah.
So
Lawrence Butler, I think I've heard of, but for the most part, no, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah. So look, I'm not going to say that the Dodgers should just walk all over them for 3 games because they are look, they're 21-20. They've got some guys who can hit. I mentioned Langalier's a guy with some occasional power, stuff like that. But this does seem like after a really tough 10-game road trip, Greg, a chance for them to sort of get home, get comfortable, get a little bit healthier, if you will, the next few days.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's kind of where you're still in that space where you kind of let these guys kind of figure it out. It's really nice right now that they're hitting very, very well, scoring runs, getting runners on base, and actually like manufacturing runs too. They're not just hitting home runs. So this is a time where they can keep doing those kinds of things. Parker, your microphone is on. So you're welcome on and to talk to us, but hearing you kind of cough and make noises and hearing everything move around is not the most pleasing to the ear. I can still hear it, but either way,
I don't know if he can hear us, but
I don't know if he can hear us. I don't know, but we'll power through, Marcus. This is a time when you can kind of get guys really working well. Like we were talking about with the yes, I can still hear you laughing, Parker, but it's not on the stream, so it's just in my ear.
Oh, okay. All right. Then we've been talking. So for everybody in the chat, we're just talking to ourselves right now. Please don't mind us.
Yeah, we're not that crazy, I swear. But just like we were talking about with the Marlins, to get back on track, when you're talking about the Marlins, this is the time where you get fat against these guys. Like you got Michael Conforto getting 3 hits in his last 2 games. Maybe this is the time when he can start getting a couple more hits against some suspect, for the most part, pitching, or Max Muncy to try and keep him getting a couple more hits. He had 5 hits in his last 7 days. So maybe that can start those guys that were kind of struggling. This is where they can kind of get fat a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the case, right? It's hopefully a chance for the bottom of the lineup to kind of get hot again. They had that stretch for a few days when it seemed like they were producing. Then they went through a stretch where they weren't hitting again. But as you mentioned, Michael Conforto has a 2-game hitting streak, 3 hits in his last 2 games. Hey, you know what? Baby steps, right? I mean, we'll take anything we can get, but he's starting to maybe come around a little bit. Max Muncy is putting the ball in play more consistently, and he's starting to get hits. So if they can start to get things from the bottom of the lineup, we can see more, say, out of Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas when he's in the lineup. And Hassan Kim, I guess here's a question, because Kim looked really good against the Marlins, whose pitching was terrible. It was not so great against the Diamondbacks. Hopefully this is a chance for him to maybe kind of get right again this week.
Yeah, totally. I think that's exactly what it is. But for Hassan Kim, I think this was always bound to happen. It's why they put him down in AAA to start the season, so he can kind of see what Major League pitching is close enough to, so he can get used to it from the difference between Korea and here. But it was always, they were going to adjust. They were going to see the things that he does. They're going to look at the iPads or the Surface Pros or whatever the hell they're looking at. And they were going to say, like, okay, this is what he likes to swing at. This is some of his tendencies. And they were going to adjust to what he does, that he does like to swing at a lot of pitches. He tries to be a little bit patient. So they were going to try and figure out how to pitch to him. And they did. And that's something that major league pitchers do. They learn how to pitch to you no matter who you are. So now it's on him to adjust to the adjustments. It's what we talked about with James Outman for the last 2 years, essentially. Can you adjust to the adjustments? And Andy Pajes seems to be somebody that could do that. Now it's on Hassan Kim's turn to be like, okay, I see what they're doing. Now I need to adjust to those. So it's eventually. So hopefully this is a spot where Kim, because he can be such a weapon, especially at the bottom of the lineup. He gets on base. We're not looking for power, not looking for home runs. It'd be nice every once in a while, but just single, walk, double, doing something, stealing bases, because a single basically turns into a double with his speed.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing for Kim. It's just get on base, right?
Yeah.
No one's expecting him to come up and hit for power, especially with the guys at the top of the lineup. Let Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, a healthy Teo, Will Smith, let them kind of handle that sort of thing. Your job is just to get on base and set the table. In fact, I saw, we talked about this before, about Shohei and the lack of RBI opportunities. I believe he's got 11 home runs and 16 RBIs, if I have that right. It's something that just seems. Let me look at this.
He has 12 home runs and
21 RBIs. Okay, so
21 RBIs.
So what I was looking at was a couple of days old, perhaps. But
yes.
The point
That's
sort of
21
still remains.
Still, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the point sort of remains that you got 12 home runs. You would hope to have more than 21 runs batted in, but the problem has been, as we talked about, there aren't guys on base ahead of him more often than not. And so, him hitting that 3-run home run in Arizona was kind of a novelty, Greg, because he just hasn't had opportunities to do that this year.
Right. I mean, so to your point, that he only had 15 home runs. He only had 15 RBIs. He had six RBIs in the last 7 days. So that's something that the 2 home runs and the 6 RBIs pushed all that up. So, I mean, he has not been that the bottom of the lineup has been a problem. And this is why people start getting into conversations about Shohei Otani moving down in the lineup. I still don't think you do it. You still leave everything the way that it is. I know Steve Mason wants him further down the lineup to get more RBIs. But if he's on base and he's playing the way that he's playing, I don't think you technically need that, because you know what? Mookie Betts is starting to drive in runs. Freddie Freeman's on a complete tear driving in Shohei. So you're still getting those runs that are being driven in. Just need the guys at the bottom, like, Hassan Kim and James Outman, and the guys that are not going to be around much longer when everybody gets healthy. Yeah. They just need to get on base.
Well, and I think, even moving Shohei down the lineup a little bit, it maybe solves the problem of Shohei's RBI numbers. It still doesn't solve the problem of turning the lineup over and getting it back to the top of the order again. So, the problem's not with the guys at the top. The concern is with the guys at the bottom and just flipping this thing over. It's getting to a point where, you look at the order and you see 6, 7, 8 or 7, 8, 9 coming up, and your first thought isn't, well, let's just cross our fingers that somebody gets aboard to keep this thing going. So, I'm fine with Shohei staying at the top of the lineup. I think the top part of the order is fine. 10 out of 10, no notes. I wouldn't change much of anything right there.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 is probably the best 1, 2, 3, 4 in baseball. I mean, I haven't paid attention to every other team, but if you're going Shohei, Mookie, Freddie, Teoscar when he's healthy, you're in a pretty good space. So, but you're right though. The bottom of the lineup, like they are having issues, which is always something that happens at the bottom of the lineup, especially at the beginning of the year. But all it takes is just one guy to get a little bit hot. And by the way, who would you want if it goes 8-9-1 and you're down by 1 in the 9th inning and it goes 8-9-1? Do you want Shohei coming up as the 1, or do you want somebody else? You love Mookie, you love Freddie, you love Teo, but I kind of trust Shohei there. No?
Yeah, I mean, actually, Mookie is the only other name that I would consider in that spot, but
not Freddie?
Maybe. I don't know. I just feel like Shohei is really going to do something special. It just always feels like Shohei is going to do something special in that situation. So he's the guy that I would want, with a chance to tie or take the lead in the 9th inning. That's the guy that I wanted to play pretty much all the time. Yes. Some kind of bad news. Elvin Phillips injury apparently worse than originally thought. Right now, the hope was he would go on the injured list and be back in a relatively short amount of time. But now, according to Dave Roberts, Evan Phillips not going to pick up a baseball for a couple of weeks. Inflammation on the elbow revealed through an MRI. I mean, it's just another one to add to the pile, I guess, at this point, Greg.
Yeah, it is. And that's kind of concerning, especially whenever it's the elbow related. That always is something that you get a little bit concerned by. Hopefully it's just a couple weeks, but I mean, I'm sure he's going to go see Dr. Neil Elatraj, he went through the MRI, but those are always concerning when it's elbow related. But yes, the amount of injuries that we continue to have on this pitching staff is astounding. It's never ending. And this is why you see that they went out and got so many guys in the offseason. Right. Like, we're going to get all these bullpen guys, and we're going to get all these starting pitchers. We're going to get all of it, and yet we're still pitching Landon Knack. I mean, there's nothing else much you can do about that. As long as they're all healthy in the middle of the season is all I keep telling myself.
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope, is that everybody starts to come back mid part of the season. The good news is it looks like Kershaw is going to be back very soon.
Yep.
And he'll be plugged back into the rotation, presumably. I know we talked about that yesterday with Clint. Probably a 6-man rotation coming. It seems like Michael Kopech is trending in a positive direction. So that is positive. So hopefully some arms coming back really, really soon, because Snell, who knows? Glass now, I guess, is progressing. He's at least playing catch, so that's a positive there. Other sort of frustrating news: Tommy Edman looks like he's delayed a little bit with an ankle. Although this, Greg, feels more like a precaution, I think, more than anything else. I think they just want to make sure he's right because he can do so many things when he's healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's something he was supposed to be off. He could have been. He was eligible to come off the IL on Saturday. Yeah. And they were just kind of wait till this week. So if he's pushing back even further, I hope it's precautionary because that means a lot of different things that can hopefully, because that can cause a lot of different problems. To your point, he does so many different things. How about this one though, Marcus, in the chat? Thomas Vizek says, when does training staff come into the question? Does a training staff come into the question for you at all? And he's probably talking about the pitching staff when we were talking about pitching injuries.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we had this conversation last year that, yeah, like it's something, there has to be something about this. Although, I don't know. I'm sitting here kind of working this out loud, right? Like on the one hand, it does feel like a training staff issue. On the other hand, as we've talked about, Andrew Friedman does make it kind of a point to go out and get pitchers that have had injury histories, hoping that they can sort of get a discount on them, hoping that they can fix them. And the third part of it is, as we've talked about, this is just pitching now in the major leagues. Like it feels like the Dodgers maybe are more snake bit than any other team, but I guarantee you go up and down a major league roster, every major league roster, and you're going to find a number of pitchers on the IL just because max effort on every pitch means you're going to have pitching injuries.
Yeah, no, see, I totally agree with you. I also yes, the pitching, the training staff maybe has something to do with it, but also, yeah, to your point, these are all guys that typically get injured. They were injured in the past for the most part. Maybe some of the guys, if you're looking at Dustin May and Tony Gonsolin and them going through multiple Tommy Johns, that's just baseball at this point. I mean, the fact that a lot of these guys get these injuries and it's a slight injury and they go, let's just do the precautionary Tommy John and put you out for a year just so you don't have to go through it a second time, hopefully. And then when they go through it a second time, that means it's just going to come back stronger. It's a whole different world that we live in now when it comes to these pitchers. And I honestly think it's just about the way that they throw the ball and the way they're doing it all the way down in single A, double A, triple A, that's how they're taught in high school nowadays. Throw as hard as you possibly can with as much spin as you possibly can, putting as much torque on your elbow that your elbow can hold so you can get up to 100, 104 miles an hour. And with all this crazy spin that it has to go from the left side to the right side. And it's just not great for a human elbow, and people are going to start hurting themselves. Eventually, you can't throw with the amount of velocity that these guys throw at and expect to not get injured. Look at Jacob deGrom. He's never been the same. He just hasn't.
Yeah, and I think on some level it becomes more a philosophical conversation about how to develop pitchers, than necessarily any one training staff. I think the Dodger training staff does the best it possibly can, but I just think overall, just because the philosophy of pitching has become, as you mentioned, velocity, spin rates, etc., that first off, the human arm is not really made to throw overhand. I mean, your shoulder's just not necessarily meant for that to begin with. That's why pitchers in softball have such longevity versus pitchers in baseball. But then to max out, to torque out your shoulder and your elbow every time you throw the ball, and to be doing that, 80 to 100 times a game, it's asking a lot. It does. I mean, like I said, from a philosophical standpoint, I do wonder about guys who were, the quote unquote pitchers, right? Like maybe Greg Maddux pitches in every era, but maybe he doesn't get as much of a look because he doesn't throw 95, 97 miles an hour. I mean, he was great at what he did, but just, I just wonder whether scouts would even give him a second look just because he doesn't give you that velocity.
No, it's a great point. I was talking to Travis yesterday about Greg Maddux. Actually, that's interesting. You brought him up. He was a Dodger for a little while. I think he had two different stints with the Dodgers. And every time he came out, I thought he was going to throw a no-hitter. Every time he pitched, I legitimately thought he was going to throw a no-hitter because he'd go through like 5 or 6 innings of no-hit baseball, and you're like, is he going to do it this time? And then obviously he'd give up a hit here and there or runs, but at the same time, I just always, because he was a pitcher, to your point, that he was that yes, I don't think he does get that kind of look because he doesn't throw 101 miles an hour, 104 miles an hour. So it's a very strange world that we live in. And then I see in the chat here, it says Dodger Ralph 89 says, we're in first place and y'all always have something to complain about.
Yeah, man, that's how we have to do the show.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what the show, like,
if we were just like something.
Yeah, if we were just like, hey man, everything's great.
All right. Great. Games tomorrow.
They're 27-14.
See you later. Next time.
They've got the best record in baseball. Like, I mean, like, I get it.
You'd be bored.
I understand. Yeah. But yeah, there's, we got 25 minutes to fill. We got to find something to talk about. If everything was like, hey man, Shohei's awesome.
What do you think? You love Mookie as much as I do?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like the Chris Farley skit where he's interviewing Paul McCartney and talking about how awesome the Beatles are. Like, it just would be kind of not great. So I understand the complaint, but
I mean, I get it too.
We got 6 months of this, man.
We have 6 months of them being the most highly paid team in baseball, the best team assembled in baseball, and probably are going to go to the World Series and probably going to win the World Series. We got to talk about something.
Got to talk about something.
And also, there are problems on the team. Like you have to point out the issues that are there. The bottom of the lineup is a problem. That is something that could cause problems in the playoffs down the line. And also, the Padres are right on their ass.
Padres are right behind them the whole time. The Giants look like they're kind of starting to fade a little bit. I know there's still a long way to go, but they got swept by the Twins over the weekend, and now they're 3.5 back. So I think the Giants might be starting to come back to earth. But I got a sense that the Padres are going to be on the Dodgers' heels pretty much all season long.
Yeah, I think so too. I love the fact that Parker's Angels actually beat the Padres last night in the ninth inning. I think it was a grand slam to win it, right?
Appreciate the help.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. You're there.
I don't know what that was.
That was just a little dance move.
Well, that was kind of amazing. All right. Anyway, the Dodgers back in action tonight against the A's at Dodger Stadium. 7:10 scheduled first pitch. Landon Knack getting the start against TBD for West Sacramento. In fact, according to the A's website, it's TBD for all 3 games of the series. So I guess we'll figure it out. We'll all learn at the same time. What's starting for the A's tonight?
Yeah, and we won't know who they are either. Like, you never heard of them before.
That's the other part of it. Is chances are we're not going to know. Outside of like Luis Severino, we're probably not going to know who the guy is that's starting anyway. So
yeah, I'm going to the Dodger game next Wednesday, and I'm trying to figure out who is going to be pitching by projecting ahead. Yamamoto pitches this Wednesday. If they go back to their normal rotation of this year of only pitching once, I get to see Yamamoto. Yeah. But if it's in the semi-shorter rotation, which is a normal rotation from any other for them in Japan and everywhere else, then it would be, I think, Sasaki. So possibly. I think both. I think I'll be happy with either one. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You get your first live look at Sasaki would be kind of cool. So for sure. You guys can get a live look at Travis and DeMarco coming up next here on the ESPN LA YouTube channel. We appreciate you hanging out with us on this Tuesday here as we get ready for a 3-game series against the Athletics. Shout out to Parker for doing his ghost dance moves there in the background. And shout out to, there he is. Shout out to the folks at LAX for helping us put this together. So we're here with you every weekday from 8:30 to 8:55. For Greg, I am Marcus. It's been the Blue Review. Appreciate y'all. Think Blue. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you.